Good morning, audience, and good morning, James, to you. James, I have to tell you today, I often say this that I wake up excited for our coffee with Jim and James, especially when I go into the coffee bar here. As you can see, I have all the paraphernalia, but something was hitting my mind today. Something. So when I say the word century, when I say the word centennial, Benjamin, C note, what comes to your mind, brother? Tell me.
Chris Isaacson, 100%, 100,
I'll give you that one.
100. That's what it makes me think.
100.
100.
Well, let me tell you, we have a big show today and a lot to be thankful and grateful for. This is our 100th episode of
Yeah.
Coffee with Jim and James.
This is where Amy puts in all the clapping and stuff like that. And it's been a while since that's happened, but we used to be able to just call for it and she would do it back in the olden days.
Yep.
When we
And
first began recording back in 2020.
is that amazing when you think about it? From the original days of, I think I started in my master bedroom, our master bedroom, and
You
now
were
we
there till last week. I mean, when you put in that coffee bar, that's
we'll never speak of that.
virtual backgrounds are the thing for sure. You
This is
know,
all
Jimmy,
real. Look at
oh,
this, man. We're
I
loaded here,
know.
baby.
I'm telling you,
We're
you have a
loaded.
logo on your wall. How pretentious is that?
Ah,
People come over. Oh, come over to the Coffee with Jim and James coffee bar.
you know what?
It's a
This might
lot.
be a franchise opportunity. You think about it?
Jimmy, 100 episodes.
I know.
Let me tell you something.
Please.
You're a TV guy, right? You watch it. You seem like a Law and Order kind of guy. I'm just saying.
Criminal Minds.
Mm.
No. We're also did the whole Game of Thrones
Oh, good.
epic.
Hey! Listen, Game of Thrones didn't make 100 episodes.
How many episodes?
73.
I also have watched shows like famous shows, Sopranos.
Mm. Guess what?
Tell me.
86 episodes. Breaking Bad.
I've seen
Breaking
it.
Bad fan.
I've seen it.
Take a stab at how many episodes?
200.
62. Almost
Wow.
half as many episodes as we've done. Have
Are,
you
are
ever
we?
seen The Wire? One of the
Not
greatest shows of all time,
okay.
ratings wise. 60.
James, are we famous or
I did
infamous?
I did 60 last year. I mean, I'm just saying. It's wild.
Wow.
I mean, we joke about it, but 100 episodes. You said it earlier. I mentioned it that we were recording this today. Just randomly throughout the week, somebody'd be like, "Hey, you want to get a meeting Thursday or whatever?" And
Yeah.
it was funny the reactions from people of going, "Oh wow, that's cool," and "Oh, that's a big deal." And so that's been kind of neat to see and hear
Yeah.
people react to that 100.
Yeah. Well, you know what though? It's sombering though too because people know that we started this right at the beginning of COVID, and then in their minds they start doing the arithmetic. Wait, one a week?
No, that can't be right.
Yeah, right.
Hmm. Wild times, man.
Yeah,
Wild times.
yeah.
Um, we started, you always joke it was a napkin kind of idea.
It
And
was.
we kind of just took that and went to work. What we're gonna do today is look back, Jimmy. Jimmy
Yes.
doesn't even know. He doesn't even know what we're gonna do.
I'm
Uh,
I'm waiting with bated breath, brother.
so
Bated
we're
breath.
gonna look back. Just kidding. He knows. We're gonna look back at different episodes. We picked highlights along the way, and there's several of them. We're going to pull in some of those moments and talk about those and high point them. I'm
Yeah,
really pumped about it because there was a ton to look back on. It was hard to pick the
yeah.
highlights.
You could pick every
Um,
episode. You could pick.
really, there were so many good things, and we hate that
Yeah.
we can't do that. But we're so long winded. It's gonna be long. So We're going to start, Jimmy. How about this? Think way back. I'm going to call it the pilot episode.
Oh my gosh.
Because it wasn't even the real episode. It's not an episode number. We're going to look at some of those. So I think we pulled some of that in, and that is one of the most depressing, first attempts there is, but it'll
awful.
It's very real. You'll see some of that. And then also the first episode, which like with a full intro and bringing in a guest, and that right there, just that brave moment of stepping out there and saying, you know what, let's give it a shot.
It's funny. It was depressing at the time. It was sombering. It was the whole thing, all the unknowns and the aspects of that. But it was funny. It was funny. I think, was that my haircut time when we have to take a look at this episode just to bring us back.
Yeah. Why don't we take a look at it?
Okay. Sounds good. Let's bring it up.
Well, the big thing is, like you said, James, I think that a lot of folks don't scream the gospel, if you will, of safe digging. And people don't realize that when we're out there working, we're out there digging, we're not just putting paint on the ground, but we are taking people's lives into our hands. And much like the good people in Energy WorldNet, my personal goal is to make sure that all the people that I work with, they get home safe to their families. And ultimately, that's what we're dealing with when it comes to damage prevention.
Amen.
Be mindful of what you're doing. Don't be afraid to stop and ask the questions if you don't understand something. You've got a lot of great resources in this industry, like yourselves, myself. Make sure you get the right equipment. Make sure you're leaning on the right people, and communicate it as needed. So,
if you like today's session, we're glad. We hope it made an impact. If you would like to join us for a session, please reach out to me. I'd be happy to have a conversation with you, see if we can't get you on one of our Coffee with Jim and James, and promote good things in the industry, promote positivity, promote safety, promote best practices, whatever the case may be. So with signing off, everybody keep the faith, stay safe, stay healthy, do the right thing. And with that, we will see you in the future.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
So happy you're on board. We are blessed to be working today and blessed to be in this industry. So let us know if we can help.
Amen.
Thanks.
Amen. What on the earth were we doing with our hands? That was literally the what do I do with my hands moment.
Did you see Jason? He's like,
are we praying right now? Yeah, I'm telling you.
Could I get any more long-winded? I can tell a good story, but man, even I was like, all right, come on, cut it off.
That outro, I'm telling you what, like you thanked everyone, their dogs, the academy.
Well, I thanked them all, neighbors.
I also noticed I'm wearing the same exact shirt or sweater as the.
Who, you?
That's just coincidence. I only have 3 shirts.
Well, it was about the same time of the year, winter-ish time right now.
Yeah, that's wild, man. Wild to look back at that.
Yeah,
poor Jason. What a good sport coming on the first one. What is it? We don't really know. We just get on a Zoom call and talk. Okay.
That was funny. But that leads into our next clip and the Connection for Life crew, as we'd like to call them, or the Three Stooges.
Oh, the boys.
Chad Kuvo. Ted Pete, Kuvo, and Joe Surratt. And ironically, about the same time that we were getting coffee kicked off, they were kicking off Connections for Life, part of the UPSCO organization.
Yeah, it was cool. So you knew them beforehand,
Definitely.
Or some of them.
Yep.
And you were actually on their show as we were recording. I think the first time before we did the mashup, you were on their show for a little bit, and you told me about it. And I was like, "That's wild." And so then when we all got on a call the first time, it was so neat to sync up on that topic of creating this. We didn't call it a podcast then. We didn't know what it was. who still
Well,
doesn't know what it is.
it was 9 minutes and 59 seconds or less, because remember at that time
Yeah,
we were
to get it.
opening the LinkedIn and we had to upload. So we were like scrambling to get things done. But it was ironic though that we all had this kind of synergetic thought about reaching out to the industry, because those guys, I did not know Ted, but I know Joe and Chad from the past, and they traveled as much as we did. And so all of a sudden when the breaks hit, they were like, what do we do?
It was weird to have got to know them so well over this time, over these 100 episodes, and really have not met them until October of last year.
At AGA?
Yeah, at
SGA?
AGA. And so
Yep.
that was so weird to, like I say, grow so close to them through really our stories run in parallel. That was so cool. And it was neat, I'll tell you, when we were picking the high points to go look back through some of that footage, because there were a lot of moments in there where it was such therapy, you know, being together and having somebody to talk about your show with and gripe about the dumbest things and get through this pandemic, you know, together. So let's Jimmy, let's take a look at some of those
Let's
connection
roll.
to
This
live
will
high
be
points.
funny. This will be good.
Let's check it out.
Hit it.
Other than that, I wanted to pass it over to Jim. I always love what he has to say.
Yeah.
Get 'em, Jimmy.
That makes one.
No pressure after that intro, by the way.
And you know me, since I'm shy and timid, I don't like to speak a lot. But over the next 45 minutes, I'm just kidding.
With two different industry or two different companies within the same industry, both of us kind of had a similar idea of like, hey, we've got to make sure we stay relevant. We got to make sure that we stay in front of our customer base, that whether they're getting product or getting information or getting things specifically from us, we want them to still see Chad and still see James and still see Joe and myself and whatnot. So we created this little show, and we really had no idea. Was it going to be training? Was it going to be casual? And it's morphed. I mean,
I'm not
you
sure.
can
We don't have any idea what it is now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we kind of add things in there, and you know.
Yeah, I don't know. You knuckleheads said that you guys wanted to start taping your faces, so I said, yeah, let's go. Right. So here we are.
Very fulfilling, and it is a very relationship-based industry. It's
It's a great way to put it.
It's crazy how small it was to me. Like
it's a really big, small industry, right?
Yeah, like it's global, but like if you talk to certain people in different parts of the country and you're like, hey, do you know what a guy well, there's 4 guys in the country who are amazing at that. And they are ba, 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 ba. And everybody knows them.
Good morning, LinkedIn community and energy community. Okay, let's take a look back. 1964, the World's Fair Expo was held in New York. 1965, UPSCO was created.
Yes.
56 years later, we're having the first UPSCO Virtual World Expo. Coincidence? I don't know about all this. I'm into conspiracy theories. James, let me bring my brother and co-host in, James, to help me get back on track. Mr. James Cross, how are you this fine and beautiful morning?
About like always. I'm just glad somebody else has to sit here and listen to your intros and try not to laugh at them.
I can't even take them seriously.
I don't. Ted, yeah, man, he's so quiet over there. You can tell he's thinking a lot.
Yeah.
About how many times Chad has sneezed on this video. But Ted, do you love what you do?
I do. I absolutely love what I do. And I love that question, honestly, because very rarely do you, I guess I'm probably going to go too in depth and you're probably just looking for yes, but very rarely do you find a place as an organization that you work for and co-workers and colleagues that you work with, that it's so harmonious and it's all going towards one goal and it's one directive. And I absolutely love what I do.
Yoga convention.
I thought it was New Orleans, September 9th, 2009.
Oh, call back.
We never spoke of that again.
Experience. And I just want to ask you guys specifically, like, coming out onto a year, actually in over a year now, since we started this, what have you guys learned and what's been the most rewarding thing for you doing this show?
just getting to hang out with y'all, really, when
Whoa.
we're able to do
Without
it.
lying, without
Yeah,
That
lying.
is
you have to
not
tell the
my
truth.
response.
An even
Yeah, that's
better
not my
poker
response.
face. No. Jimmy, I'll go first.
Please.
I've, a personal mission of mine over here in the past 2 or 3 years, and even since I got in the industry, was trying to find a voice that was uniquely mine. Can you describe yourself in one word? And then I'll let you explain it.
Genuine, I think, is probably the one word I'd give myself. I learned a very long time ago to be who you are and don't compromise that. And I think that it sometimes works for my favor, sometimes not so much. But I think that I always hold the line of being myself, no matter where I am or what I'm doing. And I try to, for me, that's a big thing for also my children. I want my children to feel comfortable in that space with who they are. So I try to really hold that line. Is right and wrong sometimes, we all make mistakes, but back to Gary Vee again. And I'm big, like I said, I'm a big fan of his. He talked to him, and somebody interviewed him one day and asked him why he says the F word so much. And does he say it around his children? And he was like, yeah. And they were like, why? And he said, because I am who I am. That's how I talk. And I'm not going to change for you or somebody else. I'm going to be myself, my authentic, genuine self, no matter what arena that I put myself into. And I feel like I do that too. So
you do say the F word a lot. Yeah,
I do say the F word a lot. So really nailed it. Yeah.
No, that's great, Joe. Describe Mr. Chad Kuvo for us in one word.
See, this is hard for me because I'm going to get emotional because he's my best friend.
No doubt. That's 2 words.
No, I'm going to say integrity. Chad and I have been best friends since the day we met. God, I knew I was going to do this. For those of you that don't know, today is the 10th. Chad and I share a birthday also, which is August 12th, 2 days. Oh. We also have the same birthday. But he has just more integrity in his little finger than most people have.
Yeah, I think that says a lot. You can literally just stop at one word. You don't even have to explain.
I look up to him a lot.
Man, well, good. Ted, you can use Ted as comic relief to bring us all back.
No, Teddy's.
I'm kidding.
Teddy's. The word for Teddy, I thought about this one a little bit, is ambitious. Most of you guys know that he does basketball, and he's got that big program he runs for like 80 kids. He's also involved in his church group. He's also involved in city council. He's also involved in a veterans group. I don't know another human being that spreads his time around more to so many different things, and how ambitious and committed he is to all of those things.
Oh, that warmed my heart.
And that was some real deal stuff right there. We joke around, we have a lot of fun, but I think it shows the way Joe kind of summed it up and that side. And later on, I didn't go grab, we didn't go grab the footage from it, but we were on their shows and they asked some of the similar questions, and we really connected during that time. It was nice. It was nice to have some partners in crime during that to
absolutely
bounce ideas and really grow our shows together. It's just phenomenal, man.
And I tell you what, you saw a different side of the guy. So I've known Joe for years, and you see Joe out in the trade shows or in the industry. Joe's kind of a tough guy, and you see him in that episode, and I'm like, man, I wish I had another hanky. I'm getting a little teary-eyed. Yeah.
So good. Talking about friends and some of our close friends, we had the opportunity, this next clips we're going to pull as a highlight that was, really, I think Jimmy and I both, it was like a whoa moment for us.
Definitely.
Because really we got to have 2 industry icons on, in our opinion, Brad Heck and our president at Energy WorldNet, Jeff Isbell. 2 people that I know that I've looked up to, and as far as involvement, engagement, just doing the right thing, all the good stuff you want in a leader. And as an example, those 2, epitomize it. And Jimmy, for me, it was like having that quality of folks on our show. Jeff being a mentor for me as well. the last 5 years or so, just really hit home that we were doing something bigger than we thought.
Yep. No, I agree with you. The part that hit me too is that it was really in the pregame show. We talk about that a lot, that before we record, we spend some time just fellowshipping. And it really hit me that my friendship with both Brad, Jeff, as well as you began well before my time at Energy WorldNet. And all of a sudden we're just talking about life, and, Brad's a fellow Floridian and items like that. I'm just like, wow, this is really good. And I would make a prediction for episodes beyond the 100th that I'd like to see some more pregame. Actually, I would like to see some pregame
Pre-show. Yeah.
Pre-show. Yeah.
The pre-show's where it's at. That's what
That's the fun stuff,
Yeah. We get on there and there's so many times, Jimmy, where you'll say, man, we should have been recording. And so we've even started to kind of bait our guest of, don't get too comfortable. Don't waste all your good stuff.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of stuff we can't record on the pre-show.
Well, that's me.
Maybe.
Let's
move on.
So, I mean,
hey, Jimmy, I did want to add one more point to that. You talked about the pre-show and just how real it was. This was coming on a time where, we were smack dab in the middle of the pandemic.
Yes.
For I think all of us were going through some different things and challenges, and when we got together and really shared a laugh and told some stories and remembered some different times, it was so therapeutic for us. And that was kind of the other part of it, Jimmy, was that aha moment of having these icons on our show, but the secondary of just how human it was that day. And I told the story later to our teams, actually, when I was talking about, this pandemic and getting through it. And I remember that day and just not wanting to get off the call.
Yeah. We were like, does it have to end?
Yeah.
Even after we quit recording, we just kept talking and sharing stories, and
it was very, very real.
It was wonderful.
Well, let's take a look at it, Jimmy.
Sounds good.
If you haven't realized it, my boss, that's really why he's on. I'm sucking up. Jeff Isabel, our president at EWN, is joining us today, as well as Mr. Brad Heck, who is the director of corporate compliance at Miller Pipeline. And we found out today that he's in his 36th year with Miller, which is pretty impressive. So I think Icon says it right on the nose. So Brad and Jeff, welcome to the show today. We appreciate you joining us.
And the passion that just is oozing through all those words.
You two should start a show.
Jeff
and Brad.
It might have to be a late night show.
One where y'all read the phone.
Okay. Would it be called the Mutt and Jeff show? Maybe. I don't know.
I see what you did there.
Do you love what you do?
Oh, absolutely. I think that that's the key behind everything, is having passion. People often say, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And so we see a lot of folks retire and then they come back to the industry because they just love what they do and they want to contribute. I think that for myself, for Brad, for a lot of other folks, in fact, Brad and I just talked about this the other day on a personal call, the passion that we have for the industry, the love that we have for the industry. There are so many great people. I've worked in different industries, but the energy and utility industry is fantastic. The quality and caliber of the folks, both from a professional and a personal level. You develop friends and you develop, professional colleagues all at the same time. And how can that be wrong?
Amen.
So when we go to events, it's always like, even this right today, this is like a reunion day, especially being separated from some of the industry events. So it makes it very easy to get excited, to get involved when you know that you're making a difference, you're doing something meaningful, important, you love the people that you're working with. And at the end of the day, you're helping, people out in the industry, with the quality, their careers, their job, and ultimately their safety and going home to their families every day. And that's something to be proud of and to get excited about.
Amen. Brad, you can just say ditto if you want. But the floor is yours, sir. Do you love what you do? I hope so after 36 years with Miller. And Miller will
Jeff. Well, thank you, Jeff. Jeff hit it right on the head, and I'll just add just a couple pieces, and that is when you deal with and when you work with the people that we do in our industry, regardless of whether it's other organizations, associations, even cross the lines from an LDC world to a transmission world or to a hazardous liquids world, the quality of people, the subject matter expertise, the willing to work together in partnership to achieve good and phenomenal things. I personally believe that you don't see that in every industry in this country, but it's very unique and it's very specialized, and it exists in the world of pipeline operations. It's a wonderful thing. The second thing I'd add to that is when you have leadership and when you have quality people in leadership positions, like I am privileged to have at Miller Pipeline, it's amazing how just the leadership perspectives and the culture that the leadership provides within each one of these organizations, including Miller Pipeline, allows for greatness to foster.
Amen.
And this is something that you can't put a price on that. That is phenomenal.
Yeah. Those warm my heart, I have to tell you. And Brad's words, allow greatness to foster. Those are powerful.
Yeah, and from those two guys, like it's neat to have captured that and get to share that with other folks. I think earlier in the show, man, there were just so many good moments.
Yeah.
I think I said in the show that those two could have a show, and they could read the phone book, and is there phone books anymore?
No. No, I've been looking for one for 2 years.
What a dated reference.
Yeah. Old man.
Man,
sorry. That's all right. No, it was absolutely wonderful. I tell you, I hope people got the chemistry that was going on there. But it was funny though. I mean, just looking at the whole scenario, Brad wearing his Hawaiian shirt, Jeff in his library, with what 1,000 books, and we both love and admire and respect Jeff with all of our heart. But one thing I love giving Jeff a hard time about, you go, hey, like if Jeff goes, do you have a minute? You have to say, okay, this might be a 10 to 15 minute, discussion.
Yeah, that might be in the running for one of our longer of the episodes.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, absolutely wonderful. Warmed my heart seeing that one. That one will stay with me for, as long as my memory works. How does that sound?
Sweet. 7 Habits, Jimmy.
James,
think about that.
It's your passion. First of all,
I really did enjoy it. That was one of the highlights for me. Throughout the year, and it was totally random. I think I remember us. Man, it was back when we talked a lot. You and I worked really closely together, and honestly, we were trying to get the show working.
Yep.
And so we spent a lot of time together. And I remember one morning kind of messaging you and being like, hey, man, we touched on sharpen the saw the other day, with someone. What if we really leaned into that? And you were like, dude, I love it. We were going through 7 Habits at the company as well, teaching it and going through it. And so it was just an opportunity we kind of seized. And man, it turned into something I really enjoyed about the show.
Yeah, we talked about it. We're like, we're not sure if this is going to work. It's a little bit on the fringe because everything was really pretty much at that point very energy focused trade show. Like you were at a virtual trade show talking to folks, and this was being brave. This was expanding it, and I have to tell you, the outpouring of people that blew this thing up and this thing up as far as responding, like that was great, guys. We're like, huh? So we actually did all 7. We did all 7 habits.
In no particular order, which was the funny part. But that was how organic we left it. It was whatever we were in the moment on. And it seemed to fit every time as we dove into it. And like you said, a lot of people reached out about those. And that, that changed. That was a moment for me that kind of changed the show of what we were allowed to put on it in a way. I know that's silly to say, but I think it broke the mold a little bit of what we thought the show could be. And that helped us to start shifting the way we talked to folks and who we brought on and what our focuses were. It was so cool.
It was a turning point. It was absolutely a pinnacle of things to make us better, to allow us to be better, and to allow, being brave and go beyond what we thought we should do, i.e. energy, and
I feel like this next section, it's going to be me talking for 40 minutes. Just one tangent after another.
Yeah, and it was. I couldn't get a word in edgewise, and that might be why you're the chief cultural officer at Energy World Net.
Yeah, look at you, product placement. I still have my copy on my desk. I'm not a liar. It is a quick reference guide to keep our life together, Jimmy. Oh, that explains a lot. Let's look at some clips.
Let's go, brother.
Studies show, I don't have the stats. I'm not going to drop them on anybody today, but that seventh habit is hard for a lot of people. America as a whole, I'll speak on America. America as a whole has embraced this idea that we have to work ourselves to death and then set this new bar and do it again and do it again. And it's a vicious cycle. No matter what your role is, no matter what segment of the industry or any industry, it is a cycle that we have got to break to be effective.
Amen.
So I hope that sets the stage on, again, another habit, beginning with the end in mind. I hope that sets the stage of what today's about.
Well, you, as always, when you speak those words, they just resonate in me. And I think the challenge, though, for me, we're coming off a holiday weekend. And, you and I talked on Friday. Heck, we began this series half a year ago as therapy for you and I to have a release, have a place to talk, to have fun, to cut some things up, to bring friends on, to share with the industry. And, we live our lives by calendars, right? Always checking calendars. And I had my mind set on this holiday weekend last weekend that I was going to sharpen the saw. And life happens, good family matters happen, nothing bad, but just things happen. And the sharpening the saw portion, James, gets pushed down and down and down. And I'm really looking forward to this discussion today about synergy. But one little example stuck in my mind is that if you take one piece of wood that can hold 100 pounds, then you take another piece of wood that can hold 100 pounds, but you put them together, they can hold 250 300 pounds, maybe more. But so the sum of the two is greater than what they are individually. So simply put, synergy means the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. That's what I'm trying to say.
That's it. Really, it's about ensuring that you stick to the important and impactful things in your life, right? Things that ultimately make a difference. A lot of the times we find ourselves really pushing some things back. There's something in your life, Joe. I don't know what that thing is for you. We all have that dream or that one thing that we've continued to put on the back burner, kicking that proverbial can down the road again and again and again. So, it's the first habit and what Covey calls the public victory. And for those that maybe aren't 7 habit nerds like me, the first 2 habits are a private victory, right? And so what that means is really it's all within yourself. Okay. So you have to change and shift your paradigms that already exist and move to more of a principle-based life. And once you make that private victory, then you can take it to the public, right? So this is that first habit that's really public facing. Okay. So first things first, at the end of the day, is really just ensuring that you're not in the weeds and putting out fires all day, right? But instead you're working through projects and visions and innovations and ideas and that are really impactful. And a lot of the time for businesses, they're lucrative too. That's a fantastic byproduct, right?
It's a very good feeling, But the problem with me though, James, is that it can go, like in cycles where all of a sudden, like I feel like, holy buckets, today I didn't do anything proactive. I was behind the 8 ball the whole day, and it kind of down.
Yeah. It's easy to fall in those ruts and those old habits. That's the old habits creeping back in is all. and the results that are still coming from not being proactive 2 years ago or earlier in your life or earlier in the week. Like again, you're trying to gain momentum, and those swings and those ebbs and flows are definitely that momentum starting, and then those old habits kicking back in, and then the momentum starts again. So it's the low-hanging fruit in this situation is so powerful because it can gain that momentum for you to just.
James, I love those, and it sparked a thought with me, is that you may or may not realize, or the audience too, that James is a guru with 7 habits, and most of those episodes he was being a mentor to me, and you may or may not have realized that, but I was like, I don't really take notes, but I was feverishly listening.
Mental noting.
And what?
Mental noting. Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
And those were fun. We, like I said, so many people reached out, and that was Jimmy, when that moment where we realized that we had such a reach, and we were able to, affect positive change out there with folks. And that kind of started to shape how we crafted our shows. It was kind of a turning point of, we've got a bigger reach than we think.
Well, yeah, and also too, our cadence really started to mesh then. I mean, you and I have been friends for a long time, and that goes without saying, but we started to get comfortable in front of the camera, and
yeah, because it was topics that not that we don't know about corrosion or whatever.
I do.
Name one. I know. I'm saying, like, it's not that we don't live and breathe risk mitigation or damage prevention, but we do business every day.
Yeah.
And so being able to talk about those topics loosened us up a little bit. And it was like, man, we're having fun now.
Yeah, we were. And I think it started to show at that point, as opposed to like the first episodes. Welcome to Coffee with Jim and James. As I'm
that's my robot.
James, that brings to another pinnacle at Energy WorldNet. 2020 was a big year for us, and especially for you, my friend. I think we could classify that as the year that we really broke some of the molds, and no other way to say it, but rebranded our company. And I want to hand it over to you, because rebranding for us and that whole thing was not an overnight thing. It was months and months and years.
Yeah, that was just the Academy Award, moment or whatever. But there was a lot of work that went into that. I would argue it's probably one of the largest projects that I've been involved with in my career. To just put it in a scope and a scale that people can understand. And to have done that in the middle of or during a pandemic, and rolled it out during a pandemic, you think about some of those moments you create with a brand rebrand or a launch event or something like that, but you can't do any of it, because you're stuck at home, and all of your clients are too. So it was a really interesting time, and it tested a lot of our folks and their skills, and that, like you said, that pinnacle moment was having Coleman Sterling, our CEO, come on and really talk about what this meant for our company, and really put some why behind this rebrand. Why now? Why did we do it? Why did we walk this path? And it was neat to hear him, really live it. Not that he didn't before, but just have a platform to really explain what it looks like.
Yeah, and let his passions, shine through to people. And, we do a good job of taking people out of their normal, Coleman in his CEO role, and taking them out of that for a few minutes, So let's see some of this. This is going to be
check
good.
It out.
Yeah. Good morning, LinkedIn community. Welcome to another exciting, and as I might give you a little hint, revealing episode of Coffee with Jim and James. It's great to be here today. And today I'm going to not start with any of my normal antics. We're going to go right into the show. So to do that, I need to bring my co-host in. He is the cream to my coffee. See, I did add a little bit of one there. Mr. James Cross. James, good morning, sir.
Hey, Jim, if I would have known all I had to do was get Coleman on here for you to stop doing those bits at the beginning, I would have had him on first episode.
Well,
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. We are super excited today. It's a big day in EWN history, and so we have Coleman Sterling, our CEO, on today. And I mean, not just because you're the CEO or my boss or anything, but my favorite guest of all time. Already, I can feel it. I can feel it deep down in my soul that this is going to be a good episode. How you doing, Coleman?
I'm doing wonderful this morning. I don't know who you got to know to get on this show, but it took me 25 shows to finally get here. So I'm glad that I'm finally here. And I didn't get the yin to the yang intro, you know.
We can start over.
Oh, no.
Coleman,
No.
you are the yin to our yang.
Okay.
James and I see it firsthand every day, day in and day out. And really, when you talk to people out in the community and the industry, they see it too. So I'm going to go right into it, and I'm going to start off by hitting you with a hard question. And that one is, what does brand mean to you, Coleman?
Well, I'll tell you, if you had asked me that 18 months ago, it would have been a different answer. Because it seems to evolve and change and things, you know, move and grow and progress. But what brand means to me today, right now with Energy WorldNet and what we're doing and the announcement that we're making today is it's a way of communication, not just with our clients, not just with our potential clients. It's clients, it's potential clients, it's industry people, and it's also our internal employees. And how we communicate and how we tell our story. You know, years ago, James and I often, we joke, years ago, it was hats and koozies, right? And that's where you start, and it's marketing. And then you move on to a bigger definition, which is brand, which is how you speak and how you write. And then now it's just grown so far beyond that, really because of the team that we have and you know, the innovation that we have at our disposal now has really driven how we look at brand and how we use brand to express ourselves in the industry. So
shows here lately with one question. I want to ask you the same thing.
Okay.
So do you love what you do?
Absolutely.
You can't answer with one tiny question. You can't answer that with one tiny answer either. That's not fair.
Oh.
Go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, that would be, yes. No, absolutely, I do. James, you know, growing up, people say, do what you love. And as you grow up, you start to learn how to love what you do. You know, when you work in federal regulatory compliance management, it doesn't sound like it, wow, that's exciting. But it is exciting. It depends on how you approach it. It depends on what your relationships are like in doing that. What can you build? What can you do new? And who are the people that you work with? That's why I love it so much.
Man, I like how Coleman says, you know, I like how I'll sum it up. I paraphrase poorly. That's my superpower.
It is.
Who you do it with, right? Like man, that's so important. So important. If I've learned anything here is, man, Energy WorldNet does that right. Man,
Yeah.
I really enjoy working with the folks I work with. And Coleman, you can tell Coleman drives that.
Yeah.
For sure.
It was fun seeing a personal, passionate, I mean, he has it all the time, but, you know,
a lot of people don't get to see it. You know, you and I
don't.
have a different kind of relationship with Coleman than most people. Obviously, we have more exposure but getting to see some of that from him is cool. You know, another highlight, Jimmy, one part I really enjoyed was bringing our friend Rob Darden on. And there's a whole story in this that ended up making this a highlight even more so. But we had a great recording with Rob. After chasing him around, you know, Rob's one of those people that his schedule is bananas. And
he's
so,
what is he, EVP of the DCA, or he's up there?
It sounds made up. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot of letters, Rob.
Executive Vice President of the ECA.
But Rob finally comes on the show. We book it, we record it. Well, okay, this was we changed this past year to moving to recording days. Okay.
Yeah,
so we record a whole bunch of them, right? At
in one day or 2 days. We
just to make our time a little more efficient. So this was the first time ever. And we recorded all these shows, and I forgot to deliver Rob's to our design team. And it would. That's not what makes the funniest story. The story is funny as the fact that Rob didn't say anything for months, like 3, 4, 5 months. He goes without his episode airing, and he doesn't reach out or anything. It's just like, oh, I guess that they found somebody else,
I got shot.
Cutting room floor. And so Rob finally reaches out one day and says, my son texted me and said, weren't you on coffee with Andrew? Shout out.
Yeah.
Weren't you on coffee with Jim and James? And he was like, I was on there. And he's like, I haven't seen it air. Did they cut you? And so Rob reaches out, and sure enough, it was on my desktop. And we found the lost episode. So we did a little funny intro and actually called it the lost episode. But, the humor in that, Jimmy, more so was later in the year, we saw Rob at AGA.
Yes.
And got to spend some time with him, actually interviewed him live at AGA. But that was a story that we ended up laughing about, and we still laugh about to this day.
Absolutely.
And so Jimmy, let's take a look at the lost episode.
Let's get into it. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, to this week's episode of Coffee with Jim and James. Now, I know to the audience, you always expect my wacky intros, but today is a little bit different. We're right in the midst of the new logo launch, which I love, new mugs. And if you look at James, he has a microphone headset. This guy is going gangbusters on this. So
if you haven't noticed, we do have a guest on today. We're just not talking around in circles. Rob Darden is with us from DCA. Rob, good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Super pumped to have you. Rob and I have crossed paths several times. They do awesome stuff at DCA.
Yes.
And we're excited to bring him on to talk about some of the exciting things they have going on right now. So,
James, I loved it. I loved it. And let me just jump in real quick. It's okay. Lemonade from lemons, yes, we had a little hiccup or whatever, but like you said, to this day, our relationship with Rob, we joke about that. And that it kind of just, we have fun, when we're talking, and it's,
it was good to laugh with him in person at AGA. We had a good time. Really good. Another person that was at AGA that we got to see as well, right? It was AGA, right?
Yeah.
Laura Moreau from Arterra.
Yep.
As well. And Jimmy, we spent time, they invited us to an event, but we had a lot of overlap, at different points at AGA. So it was good to meet up with her and learn about what they're doing over there, and, get to share some time. Laura's awesome. Really driving kind of that brand over there, and that, how they communicate it and stuff like that. So many good things going on over there.
Yeah, and it flows through to all the Arterra companies, and they have a bevy of companies. And so Laura's got her hands full. But that was a fun episode. We get on, and back in those days, I would tell a wacky story at the beginning of our episode. And sometimes they get out there, far-fetched. And usually to the audience, I would usually have those stories hit my head 30 seconds, 2 minutes before we start recording. It's just like something comes in. So Laura being out of Indiana, corn came into it. So I had a story about, well, we can watch it, but it was about the schooner and the key, Laura and her husband and family on the beach and saving me. And it's wacky, but they're good people.
So one of your best ones, Jimmy, one of your best lead-in stories. We should have had a montage of all of those. That would have been the winner of everything.
Oh boy.
You know, the cool thing about Laura too was she kind of told us on the show that she was on a journey as well. I don't remember if it was on the pre-show or the show, just sharing her message and really finding her voice in the industry, which, as you know, I've been working on as well. 100 shows in. You know, finding your niche. And I love the topics we dove into. I got to geek out. You know, you get to geek out a lot on this show because of your background in the industry. And so when someone comes on that's more marketing or branding or design or something like that, Jimmy always sits back and gets mad at me. But that's
I don't get mad at you.
That's our dynamic.
That's why I have the coffee and the coffee makers.
Yeah. Well, so, let's dive into this Laura episode.
Yeah, James, before we get started, Laura and I really haven't met, but we have met. She may not remember it. Let me tell you a quick story. Do I have a minute, James?
Always.
All right.
I mean, you have a microphone. Yeah.
I was sailing or piloting my schooner down the Florida Keys on my way to Key West when all of a sudden disaster struck. My props stopped working. You know, this can be a problem in the high seas, right?
Sure.
So I look back there and what's caught in my propeller? Corn stalks. And I'm like, corn stalks. Yeah, I'm in trouble. So I'm looking around and I notice the beach, 50, 60 feet away. So I yelled to the beach, I have corn stalks in my prop. Is anybody from the Midwest? And nobody said anything except this lady raised her hand. She had children. Her husband were there. And she's like, we're from Indiana. And I'm like, okay, prove it. She's like, my husband's a Hoosier. I'm like, that's the corn capital of the world.
Checks out.
And I said, can you come help me? I said, I'm about ready to be taken away to Antarctica. And they look at each other and they're talking. All of a sudden I see him doing this, and all of a sudden the husband's like, so he goes up and gets his corn sickle. They must carry that on vacation.
They do.
Big 6-1.
All the time, just the essentials.
He walks out. I mean, it wasn't too deep, I guess. So he walks out to the schooner and hacks it away. And I get on my way and I'm like, thank you so much. Who are you? And she's like, my name is Laura. And I said, thank you so much. She's like, whether it's personally or professionally, we like to take care of people, make sure people are safe.
Wow.
And I'm like, what company do you work for? And she's like, don't forget the name Arterra.
Wow.
Stuck with me ever since. I almost renamed the ship Arterra because of that incident.
Never happened. None of that happened.
You don't know that.
It's possible. It's possible. We touched around it, but let's talk about reputation. And I'll tell you something we're realizing more and more every day is how important the reputation is inside of our own walls, right? Like sometimes we always think about, well, it's, what the clients think, but if your people aren't believing in the brand and not living the brand, then it's going to show in the work and it's going to show in the relationships and it's going to trickle out and it's going to land, years later even. What you want to talk on that a little bit, how important reputation is, both internal and external?
I mean, honestly, you nailed it, James. I think reputation is about
That's my own question and answer.
I mean, but I truly believe reputation is all about your people.
Yeah.
If your people feel valued and recognized and part of your end goal, they're going to tell your own story. Like, you don't even have to do it. They're going to do it for you. And I think it's just understanding who you're hiring, who you have on your team, and how you lead them will help with that reputation too, because we all know there's multiple generations now, and the Gen Z and millennials, and I'm a millennial, like we want different feedback and affirmation and recognition in different ways, but you just have to realize that and kind of cater to who you're talking to and who you can cultivate a culture for them and recognize them.
Yeah.
Laura, I do, this conversation has brought me to a place, James. It's brought me to a place where I have a very important question to ask Laura.
Laura already knows it because I think she is a lurker, listener, watcher. Like every once in a while she watches them. She does. She already knows.
So?
She's been
This is a hard question. This is a hard one. It's
VP
riveting.
of communication. She's practiced.
Laura,
Yeah.
let me ask you a very important question.
Okay.
Do you love what you do?
I sure do.
You got to hit her with the why.
You
Because
do.
Normally James does this. So why do you love what you do, Laura?
It all stems to what we've been talking about, the people. I've
Yeah.
just been so fortunate to work with so many intelligent, encouraging leaders and turn into mentors that have helped me in my career and also our friends. And it's the people. And I never thought driving by a job site, I would be so excited and kind of drive really extra slow and look and say, I know what they're doing. And I find that so gratifying. And my daughter was in the car with me once and she goes, Mom, that's an excavator. And I'm like, you're right,
that's what
honey.
my daughter says.
I'm like, that is such a win.
Looks over my shoulder and sees
Yes.
them working, and she goes, I know what that is.
And I think that's so cool. I've never thought I'd be in this industry, but I would never choose another one. Like I'm set. I love what I do.
Lord.
What a great couple snippets there.
Yeah,
you
Jimmy,
know?
did you hear it? People.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's Laura.
Everybody we talked to, it seemed like, that just rings true. Our industry, our people that we're working with, like
It makes
never before have we heard that so much than now. I think if we came out of this pandemic and realized that's pretty good byproduct.
And you notice she mentioned intelligent people?
Yeah. She's not here for the dumb ones. No.
That was fun. That was great. That was a fun episode. That was great. She let her light shine. And then we saw her live. And I'm going to say probably the pinnacle to date during the pandemic for you and I, as well as a lot of the industry, was last October. You remember last October, James?
Jimmy, I'll go out on a limb for myself personally and say might have been a pinnacle couple of, a handful of days in my career, to this point. Like it was really a high point that I can't explain to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with, winning the award or having the notoriety. It was just validation in what you're doing. Not about the results and how many listeners and all the things, but just how many people came up and shook our hands and said, so glad you're doing what you're doing.
Yep. And just to bring full circle here, we're talking about the AGA live event in Orlando and then the SGA live event in Charlotte, which really happened within a 3-week span.
Yeah.
I mean, it was back
10
to back.
days. Yeah. It seemed like we shipped our stuff from AGA to SGA. That tells you something. I mean,
we had to make it there in time. And the fun thing is that a little bit of for the folks over there, saw some of the reels that you're going to see here in a second. James hit me up one day and he goes, I got this crazy idea for a booth design for AGA, which was in Orlando, just a couple hours away from, and it was pink and it looked like Miami Vice. And James is like, I might get fired over this one. I'm like, no, baby, go for it. This looks great. And AGA, for those that have been there, those that have not, this is a huge conference.
Yeah,
even during the pandemic, it was football field's huge. I mean, it's huge. And we stood out. I mean, we had people by the booth all the time. And that was the great part, just having to stop by and
it really created a moment. And then within that, we called it the meta schedule. We had a meta schedule within the schedule that was us recording and going and capturing footage with the UPSCO guys we talked about earlier, Connections for Life, recording live from the booth, going to other people's booths and recording. There was so much going on in receptions, and that it was the busiest I've ever been at a conference, number one, but just the impact and the way it changed what a conference felt like to me now, like what we can do and how we can bring more to a hall and value to a show and continue a conversation, that we've been having.
Yep.
The show was a great draw. And even when we were bored or opposed, as an exhibit hall, we used those moments to grab messages to share with people. It was a neat moment to see all collective. What I talked about it, I think, on the Connections for Life show, but just that whole piece of work from delivering it back the next day to running the shows and packaging those after we got back to recording live to all of it was just one of those moments where you execute just, I mean, near perfect, right? Even when it wasn't perfect, Jimmy, because we were laying on the floor together at times, putting stuff together and sweating. And
well, you were, I wasn't. I would always go away and come back and just check on things. Yeah.
It was a wild time and some of the longest days. And those days are long anyway.
They are long.
But
do you remember it was a mile walk from the hotel area to the convention and you never went outside? You were always under rooftop.
Yeah, that Gaylord Palms. Yeah, those are long days. But man, I wouldn't take any of it away. And then to turn around and do it again at SGA.
Yeah.
And like we said, win the award there, which was never expected that in all my life.
We thought it was a joke, didn't we? I mean, to win the SGA Corporate Communications Award, going up against companies that are renowned
dogs.
The industry.
I mean, they definitely have bigger wallets than we do and budgets, I bet, than our show.
$17. That's our budget, James. Just so you know.
And we spent it all on that big Coffee with Jim and James sign behind Jim.
That's it.
No, that man, highlight of this year. I think we have kind of mashup of both events in our kind of going live experience. And I want people to know this is something we put in our goals. This is something we put in our budgets and something we absolutely executed on from a Coffee with Jim and James standpoint too.
Yeah.
Like we said we were going to do this and we went out and delivered, and I was very proud of the product that we did. So Jimmy, let's look back on it.
Loved it. Do I dance?
I mean, had a whole vibe, didn't it? I mean,
it really
all of
did.
it. The production from the team back home, like putting all that together, and the rapidness and the response. I mean, man, I was just
fast and curious. And again, reminded me, we were on Pipeliners podcast there. You remember that?
Yeah, we were on Connections for Life.
Connections for Life. Hydromax. We did a live event from the Hydromax.
And then I bet we recorded, I don't know in total, but let's say 12 to 16 folks while we were there.
Oh, at least. Yeah.
I mean, there was a lot. It felt like we put out content for 2 weeks. I felt like everybody hated us, but hopefully not. Sorry, not sorry. But, one of the people that we interviewed there, Jimmy, was somebody who we got to know. It kind of became our traveling buddy for a couple of shows.
And great friend.
And became really a great friend. We had him on the show beforehand, and that time CEO of Hydromax USA, John Smith. And we had him on the show at that time. And then we crossed paths at AGA and SGA.
Yep.
And we had him on and we talked about a very important topic. And he had seen our mental health series and us kicking that off, which again, very, very proud of that. But he asked if he could come on and talk about mental health for our veterans
Yep.
and some of what they're dealing with. And at the time, we had just pulled out of Afghanistan.
Yes.
Not soon before that. We're out in the middle of the pandemic. We had just kicked off the mental health series for that reason. I mean, ourselves kind of going through some of that too, Jimmy, not to that extreme, but everybody was kind of in a season.
Yeah.
And John came to us and said, I got a really important message to share and we want to do it with y'all.
Yeah. And he is a naval aviator veteran, Top Gun, Miramar, the whole bit. And so he is passionate about that. And some of the stats that he gave us and some of the concerns, I again, from memory, I think it's 21 of our veterans unfortunately commit suicide every day. 21 or 22 a day. And that's the ones that are known about, because so many are homeless and they're just not recognized. And it was sombering, that whole bit. But having John on was
really was. Yeah. And more validation, I think, that we had a bigger reach than we imagined.
Yes.
We were able to roll that out on Veterans Day.
Yep.
Just worked out for us. And John was awesome to get that done in time.
Yeah.
And, a very powerful message. And like we said, became really close friends with John. And, somebody you can text and just say hello and share a couple of stories, So that's been an awesome part of it too. But Jimmy, let's peek into the mental health series and that episode with John Smith. So John, give us a little flyover, metaphorically.
Yeah, metaphor. Yeah. Thanks a lot. It's great to be back. So glad to be here. It's always great, like you said, to get asked back, especially on a topic like we're going to talk about today. It's near and dear to my heart. I've in just a little bit for those who don't know me. Part of my background, besides being privileged enough to lead Hydromax USA, is that I'm a retiree of the U.S. Navy, 21 years. Very different scenario than business in a lot of ways. But this topic we're going to talk about, it used to be that it was a very hidden subject, and it was very hidden when I was in the military. It was hidden even in business. When I joined business, you didn't talk about these. You wouldn't get on a podcast and talk about, Jim, what you were saying. Hey, you know what? Every day isn't great. And everybody, it was really seen that you needed to be that person who was always optimistic, always out front. Inside, people are fighting hidden battles.
Who else should be involved with this? I mean, you mentioned a few people, but I think we've dive a little bit deeper into that, because I think a lot of us may not realize that we could be a great help and influencer to folks out there.
Well, and you're spot on with that. And I think the other part of this is not everyone's going to come to you or me or James, but they're going to come to maybe that friend they've got in the field or that person they've worked with for 10 years. And those people are the ones that I find come forward most of the time and say, hey, so-and-so has approached me. I think they're having a really tough time. Mm-hmm. What do I do? How do I handle this? And so this is where I think the other form of leadership is being able to mentor and to help those people that people are talking to be able to watch for the right signs, be able to talk to them and give them support when they're ready for support, and to really show empathy.
That's been something eye-opening for me, is that we're really smart people. Okay, as in a society, there's a lot of great, talented people, and you can engineer the majority of things. But what we're learning more and more is you can't engineer this part, and you've got to. There's nothing like what you said, John, being present, because it's genuine. There's not an ulterior motive. I'm not sitting there going, okay, what are you going to do with this data when you get it? Yeah. And they're just setting me up to be fired. When you can shift that culture a bit, where people do feel safe to have that conversation, knowing it's not something that is, again, going to define me. We look at this call, and all of us have dealt with some kind of mental health issue over the past 2 years or longer, right? Yeah. There's a CEO, a VP, you know what I mean? There's that isn't saying that we're not functioning and not doing the best that we can, but it does bring light to the fact that everybody is battling something.
Yeah.
Wow, James, it's I don't have much words. Everyone is battling something, though. It stays with me. I mean, it will, and it's important for everybody to realize that. It really is.
Yeah, it was an important topic, and again, just John bringing that to us and allowing us to share, that message for him. And again, it kind of it made us, it validated that series, that mental health series, and something that we'll continue to put out there. There's a need, and our industry's, I think, at a point where we're listening and understanding how important it is to talk about this, and I'm glad to be able to do it on the show. I wish we didn't have to, but I'm glad to be able to have this platform to do it.
I would agree. And I myself being now 10 years, this year will be 11 years sober for myself. And the stats before the pandemic were 1 in 11 wrestled with some sort of substance abuse issue. And then I just want people, the next time you're in a meeting and you're in a meeting with 10 or 11 people, look around that meeting and know that statistically somebody in that meeting who's not even showing it is wrestling with this. That's the thing. That's the key.
Absolutely.
So,
And John Smith, good friend.
Yeah.
Jimmy, we were blessed this year to really get close to a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
Virtually or not, it didn't matter. If we did 100 shows, I'd say we probably had 70, 75 guests on, different, unique folks. And wow, to think about those folks and really those friends, Jimmy, and a lot of them at the beginning, I can't imagine having to support our first couple of shows. Whoever, Jason Crow, brother, I tell you what, just signing up for that gig, I'm telling you, we joke about it, but he signed on the back. I'm in. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Some of those first people that had to watch it and go, I guess I'll like it.
The 3 people.
Yeah. So, but the amount of friends that we called on during those times, and then we're so gracious again to share the experience with us on the show. Those that we met later in the year that at live that we didn't even know, the lurkers.
Yeah.
I remember, I have no clue what her name was because it was so fast, but someone ran up while we were at AGA and kind of slid in and took a picture with us. No, while we were at the booth. And she was like, "Can I get a picture?" And slid in there and took a picture. It was like, "Ooh, okay."
And we started to be known as the coffee guys. Hey, the coffee guys are over there.
So neat. So many friends that we've made. It became kind of a goal of ours too with the show is to really connect with folks. And, it seems like with each episode, we gained a friend or two, along the way. So let's look back. This has got to be one of my favorite parts.
Definitely.
When we were writing it, I said, if I could just get all the smiles. So somebody, I think it was Kaylee, had to sit through all the episodes and just pull smiles, but I pray she did it justice. But Jimmy, let's look back and crack a smile with some of our friends.
Let's do it, brother. Let's do it.
Dude, I told you it would be money.
I
could watch that all day. The smiles and the laughs. There's so many in there, and those are just here and there. Looking for these highlights, Jimmy, and going through them. We had some laughs, not just these, because there were a lot. This show could have been 2 hours long. It might be 2 hours long.
It might be.
But going back and look at some of that and just laughing together, you and I just picking these out. I mean, that was worth it for me, whether we recorded or not. Just reliving some of that, laughing at our haircuts and my facial hair, laughing at the 20 pounds plus or minus that would go off and on throughout the pandemic.
Yeah.
It's
James,
we're
it's
blessed.
wonderful. We are, but you know what? Let's do what I did not do in the first episode. Let's make this outro quick. Let's thank everybody. Let's put a bow on this one. This one is done and in the books. And James,
100.
I'm committed to you to be with you for our 200th episode. If we're so blessed to do so.
Another 100.
Let's do it, baby. Let's do it.
Hey,
thank you, everybody, for tuning in.
Jimmy, it's been a blast, brother.
Yeah, always.
I don't want to start crying right now or anything, but
I'm not crying. My eyes are just sweating. So, all right.
Audience, we appreciate you. It's been a blast. 100.
Beautiful. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. And with that, James, you know what? I'm going to dance out of this one. Wait a minute.
I think this is where Amy does something.
This is where I embarrass myself.
Do whatever you want.
See y'all. Stay safe.
Put a bunny in my hand.
No, don't do that to me. See y'all.